Is the Iranian regime connected to the PKK terror group? Is the article written by Rachel Avraham on JerusalemOnline.com. Kurdish news agencies report that there is a secret agreement between the PKK and the Iranian government where the PKK suspends all operations against Iran and prevent other Iranian operation groups from carrying out hostile actions in exchange for Iran supporting the PKK. Recently, local Kurdish news agencies reported that there has been a secret agreement between the PKK and the Iranian government. According to the report, the agreement stressed that PKK is to suspend all operations against Iran and to prevent other Iranian opposition groups from carrying out hostile action against Islamic Republic in exchange for Iran supporting the PKK, especially in Iraq. A Kurdish source told Bas News, "We are certain that PKK was ordered by Iranian government to stop KDPI because they were concerned about military operation following the latest protests in Mahabad and Sardasht in Iranian Kurdistan." Ehsan Efruni, the International Regulation Chairman of Kurdistan National Assembly, told Jerusalem Online in an exclusive interview, "Today we see great operation between the Iranian intelligence and PKK in defeating the uprising in Iranian Kurdistan. We all witnessed the Peshmerga being killed by PKK guerrillas. Most of them, Peshmerga operational territories, have been surrounded by PKK fighters, and those territories have been attacked by the PKK in order to reduce pressure on Iranian regime." According to the International Business Times, those protests were one of the biggest Kurdish uprisings against the Iranian regime in years. Buildings burned to the ground, law enforcement vehicles were destroyed, and hundreds of arrests took place. Iranian Kurds are planning to carry out a comprehensive revolution, and there are armed Kurdish Iranian political parties positioning themselves for the revolution. Iraqi human rights lawyer Sarkaud Kamal Ali told the International Business Times, "This reality is believed to be the reason why Iranian regime decided to utilize the PKK in order to attack the Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran, KDPI, along the Iranian-Iraqi border this week." Sharif Behrouz, the former U.S. representative of Kurdistan Democratic Party of Iran, KDPI, and the current Iranian Roundtable president, told Jerusalem Online in an exclusive interview, "Following the crisis in the region, PKK is still the caps of Shia crescent. As the top person of the PKK, Jamil Bayek, is an Alawi Shia himself. Unfortunately, in Syria, the PKK relationship was against the Kurdish national movement in Syria, and this is the same with Iran as well. The mere fact that PKK has been able to use the territories between Iran and Iraq as their basis for many years to conduct their fight against the Turkish state has been due to the blessing and support of the Iranians. Both sides have their reasons for such a cooperation, but certainly it's not the best interest of the Kurds in Iran." The PKK has problematic history. Founded by Abdullah Öcalan in 1978 as a Marxist-Leninist group, they were labeled as a terror organization by the EU and US. In the past, they fought alongside Palestinian terror groups against Israel. According to the Council on Foreign Relations, in the mid-1980s, they relied on guerrilla warfare that included the kidnapping of fighting foreign tourists in Turkey, suicide bombings, and attacks on Turkish diplomatic offices in Europe. The PKK has repeatedly attacked civilians and refused to assist. In 1993, the PKK launched coordinated attacks involving firebombs and vandalism at Turkish diplomatic and commercial offices in 6 Western European countries. PKK operatives have used bombs and grenades at tourist sites in Istanbul and Turkish seaside resorts. As fighting reached a peak in the mid-1990s, thousands of villages were destroyed in southern and eastern Turkey. During the fighting in southeast Turkey, PKK terrorists also killed civilians and village guards loyal to the Turkish government. An estimated 37,000 people have been killed in the fighting. Efreni explained that after Öcalan's arrest in 1999, the PKK began to transform itself into an instrument utilized by the Iranian and Syrian government in order to oppress other Kurdish groups affiliated with the West. On August 13, 2011, the Turkish intelligence gave information to the Iranian intelligence about the gathering of PKK leaders in a village in Iranian Kurdistan. The Iranian intelligence arrested all of them. Then the Iranian intelligence invited in Salih Muslim, the leader of PYD, that was residing in Iraqi Kurdistan. After a one-week meeting, they sent Behrouz Ardal, Salih Muslim, and a third one to Damascus, were welcomed by intelligence head General Ali Mamluk. Following one-week meeting in Damascus, they headed to Syrian Kurdistan, where there was a peaceful revolution. They started to coordinate with the Syrian authorities and assist them in hunting organizers of the demonstration that had been held against the Syrian regime. Afrini emphasized the PYD that were taking all of their orders from the Kandil Mountains, where Iranian and the PKK have a joint operation center conducted from there for all of their operations in Syrian Kurdistan. The PKK brought back to the sense the occupier of Kurdistan to serve their interest in the region and defeat the aspiration of Kurdish nation. According to Israeli investigation journalist Adina Kutniki, Damascus and Tehran are working through the Democratic Union Party, PYD, and their military wing, the People's Protection Unit, YPG, to divide the region and install puppet leaders who can control the Kurds. The PYD and YPG are working with Iranian and Syrian intelligence officers to directly serve their interests at the expense of the majority of Syrian Kurds. This includes changing the Kurdish area's demographics by dividing it into cantons and displacing 1 million Syrian Kurds who have become refugees in neighboring countries. The PYD and YPG and many other groups in the Kurdish region of Syria are staging fighting to get international support and allied other groups. Al-Monitor reported that former Turkish Interior Minister Naim Saim stated that the PKK is using Iran for accommodation, transit, training, medical care, recruiting, financing and propaganda. Moreover, some weapons transfers are conducted from there. Today's Zaman even reported a couple of years ago the existence of Iranian spy ring in Turkey that was cooperating with the PKK in order to foment an uprising among the Turkish population in southern and southeastern Turkey. The PKK's connection with the Iranian regime are especially detrimental in light of recent revelations reported in Jerusalem Online that the Iranian regime is cooperating with ISIS in order to crush the Baluchi national movement in Pakistan and persecute Baluchis in Afghanistan. However, there are hints that Iranian regime's connection with ISIS expands beyond the Baluchis issue. The Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs reported that the non-Islamic Syrian opposition claims ISIS is an Iranian creation, while other sources proclaimed, "We are familiar with the commanders of ISIS. Once they belonged to Assad's intelligence, and now they are operating on his behalf under the name of ISIS." According to Afrini, most of the ISIS leaders were released from Lebanese, Syrian, Iraqi, and Iranian prisons. Some who had been captured by the FSA had on their passport Iran listed as their last entrance country. Most of the Al-Qaeda and ISIS were trained in territory controlled by Syrian Alawite regime. As a result, Afrini does not see a difference between Al-Qaeda, ISIS and the PKK because they hold similar principles with no objective goals. Regarding the connection between them, all of them belong to one school. We all know that PKK evolved and was empowered by the Syrian and Iranian regime because the PKK leadership is all Alawi. The Syrian and Iranian regime, all of those extremist groups, to ruin the image of the Syrian revolution in order to give the international community the message that their government is also under the threat of extremists. However, we see in so many places in northeast Aleppo and lately in Damascus that Syrian forces were withdrawing from territory to let ISIS take over without resistance. Similarly, the PKK took over all intelligence and government departments without any resistance from the government side. The question remains, what has motivated Iran to support the PKK and to bring them into Syria-Iran-ISIS equation? Despite the Shia-Sunni rivalry, ISIS is a low Islamist group that serves the purpose of helping to crush Balochi nationalism, improving Iran's and Syria's global image, is assisting in the crushing of the Syrian revolution and in spreading radical Islam around the globe. Iranian human rights activists have also noted that both ISIS and Iranian-backed groups employ similar tactics as well. One might ponder, what does PKK have to contribute from an Iranian perspective other than to create division within the Kurdish community and to help crush opposition groups? After all, what does a Marxist-Leninist group have in common with Shia Islamist Iran other than the fact their leadership is Alawi, an offshoot of Shia Islam? How could Islamist Iran support a group that actively recruits underage girls that pronounce around immodestly dressed from Islamic's respective and wage and masculine activity of engaging in warfare? While Assad's regime, that is also secular, Ba'athist, enhances the Iranian axis despite difference in ideology, supporting the Kurdish group based in Turkey could backfire in relation to Iran's own Kurdish minority, even though the PKK adopted a non-confrontational stance towards Iran. After all, the same arguments for an independent Kurdistan in Turkish territory apply to Iran as well. But despite this fact, Iran and Turkey are rivals in the Syrian conflict as well as in their struggle for regional influence. Iran actively supports Assad's regime, while Turkey promotes the rebels. While Iran seeks to establish a Shia empire that includes Lebanon, Syria, Iraq and Yemen, the Turkish government seeks to re-establish Ottoman Empire. This prompts Iran to take a confrontational stance towards Turkey. They refrain from making it direct. Therefore, according to Al-Monitor, in indirect challenges, the cheapest method is to use terror. This is why Iran, Iraq and Syria have become a free zone for the PKK.